Hello and welcome to the channel. Today with an English video. I will present you the Killteam 2024 NPO expansion kit, which I've built recently through a longer train ride. I've made this in English and German and it's downloadable. You can find the link in the description below. So what is it? It is an expansion for the Joint Operations NPO format. So basically the single player of Killteam or the multiplayer if you want to play with friends or just get into the system or whatever. However, it always felt kind of low for me because it's not really challenging if you play it by the rules in the core rulebook. So this is kind of an expansion. So it contains thematic rule sets for various 40k factions, including faction rules, 2 strategic gambits, 2 firefight gambits, and 2 faction equipments for each thinkable faction are found now. And I suggest you to play it like that the NPOs generate the same command point as players. Strategic and firefight gambits cost 1 CP each and only choose one of the 2 available faction equipment and pay 1 CP for it. And that's the idea behind it. Other than that, you can play anything like the NPO behavior and stuff like this. You can use that from the core rulebook. And however, if you want to make it a little bit harder, you can just use both. So I put the tables of content in here, and these is all the factions I will cover. So Adeptus of Starters, Astra Militarum, Necrons, Custodes, and Sisters of Silence in one, Tyranids, Death Guard, Thousand Suns, Emperor's Children, World Eaters, Chaos Space Marines, generic ones, Chaos Demons, Genestealer Cult, Adeptus Sororitas, Tau Empire, Eldari, Drukari, Adeptus Mechanicus, and Leaks of Votan. And however, this is where we go actually. Everything is basically one sheet for each faction. And you use the datasheets in the core rulebook, like Brawler, Troop, Marksman, Brawler, Marksman, Troop, and Heavy, and so on. And then you can actually update that. So you put your Custodes. In this case, you want to play against Space Marines. You select your models, who's who. And then you can play by these faction rules to give them a little bit more hint. Usually the NPO missions suggest you put 90 wounds. You can also add up to 120 wounds of different models on there. And each have their specific data sheets depending on the core rulebook, if it's a troop or a brawler or heavy. And then you can add these rules to make it a little bit more spicy. And I try to keep it as thematic as possible. Here, for example, I have a faction rule, they shall know no fear. So all friendly operators can reroll 1 hit roll for free during each sequence, 1 per sequence. If you do not retain any critical success, you can change a normal success to a critical attack and defense dice. You have a strategic ploys, and these are the different. So I didn't make one for each chapter, but I tried to put a lot of chapter flavor in here. So you have the Templar's Crusade or theoretical and practicals. Obviously the Ultramarines. We have a firefight ploy called Wolves from Fenris. Another one for Angels of Caliban and Dragons of Vulcan. We have the Sanguinary Blood Angels. We have the Iron Hands Medusa here. And as you can see, I don't want to run through all the lists, so I try to keep it as thematically as possible. The Templars obviously do more damage, and even more damage if they play against Psyker, Chaos, Demon, and Xenos. So basically anything but Imperium. If you play against Imperium, you don't do any additional damage except you play against Psykers. You always do more damage against Psykers. Here we have that the Ultramarines can immediately reposition, fall back, or charge. So it's not like you play against Ultramarines, it's just you play Adeptus or Starters and they have all these tools to work with. As you see, I basically put the faction equipment up to 2 operators always to not like escalate it completely, and try to make it thematically as close as possible to what I think would be fluffy, or fluffy is the wrong word, it's the German word for fluff. So law accurate, let's say it like this. So again, here you have the Astra Militarum Imperial Guard. You have, for example, the faction rules as you give orders. And at the start of each turning point, you choose what kind of orders the NPOs will have. So they give more move, or reroll hit rolls of 1, or they bring it down so they have more output in a range. Or for the Emperor, you can fall back and dash for 0 AP. Also dash after a charge if you want to. We have Also here I put in the different regiments, like Volcadia does more damage for ranged weapons, Elysian drop troops for all the guys of you who know the old regiment. It's basically a bit more like Tempestus kinds. Catachans for melee, the Way of the Death Corps even do damage when they die, so you can activate them. We have a Tempestus Aquila, two operators can benefit from 2 orders, or Relics of Armageddon for the Steel Legion, so they are a bit more tough and reduce incoming damage by 2. So I tried to put everything in here, necrons for example, faction rule unending legions. Instead of being removed from the kill zone, they remain with 1 wound as a specific rule, any operative. So strategic ploy would be nanoscarabs. Each wounded or injured necron model gains d3 plus 1 wounds in the strategic phase. Reanimation, roll a d6 on a 5-1 friendly operative which was incapacitated returns with 5 wounds of 3 and 3 to its last locations. If you roll a 6, it returns with all the wounds. So then we have basically thematically the nanoscarabs and reanimation for having them hard to kill, and then we have firefight ploys and infection equipment to actually increase the damage output, thematically set. So we have gauze fire for piercing 1 weapon rule or several, and we have hyperphase weapons for more melee output. So for each phase you have a firefight ploy you could use with the NPOs, and the faction equipment is either you go 2 destroyers, so you can reroll any ones during melee and range attacks and add 1 to any damage characteristic on your weapon profile. This is 1 for melee. You can do whatever you want with this, and if you're old as well and started with necrons in 3rd like I did, you have the pariah, so reduce incoming damage from psychic attacks in case you play against warp covenants or whatever, and you add damage to any psychic operatives. We have Adeptus Custodes and Sisters of Silence. Here I went a bit madness. So faction rule Emperor's Finest, so all operators have a 2+ save, reduce any incoming damage by 2 to a minimum of 1 in melee. Each successful strike can block 1 unresolved success at the same time. Double the wound characteristic on its datasheet, right? Because remember, the balancing is done by wounds. So if you add 90 wounds to the table and the heavy operative has 14 wounds, with Custodes now has 28 wounds. And they are sisters in there as well, so you can mix them up with Sisters of Silence, so all operative have a 3+ save and are immune to psychic attacks, reduce any psychic damage to 1, and are immune to psychic actions. So not completely immune but to the attacks, but it's just reduced to 1. And you have strategic ploys for both of them, Custodian Wards, so you can attack stance or brace stance. Attack is you get better to hit on a 2+, or brace you have enemies have to reroll critical successes against you, so a bit more input then. I think those turned out pretty hard. So Null Maiden is basically Sister of Silence. Operative can immediately perform a free move or fall back action, but cannot move more than 3 inch. The Guardian's Rage, and is when Custodian shoots and fights, adds 2 to any damage characteristic for this activation. Maiden's Wrath, when a sister performs a shooting attacks against Saturate weapon rule. Null Maiden as faction equipment gives a debuff against Psychers. They cannot do any mission or datasheet actions. And the Clad in Gold is basically for all Custodes. When a Custodes operative is incapacitated, it can use 1 of its unresolved success or crits to strike or shoot 1 single shooting attack with its range weapon. But in both cases has to target the operative which incapacitated him. So English is my second language. If you find any typing errors, you can keep them for yourself. Feel also free to comment under this video or on the Ko-fi site, or in my Discord even, if you want to have any upgrades. From time to time I will collect reviews and upgrade and bring a new version. So this is completely free for you. You don't have to pay for it. I just put it on Ko-fi, so you can say thank you if you want to, but also for people who do not use Discord, and I don't want to pay for my Discord in order to have more files on there. So that's a way for me to host the files. It's pretty fun, I think. Tyranids, I have the Great Swarm. Power of the Hive Mind while in range of 3 other Tyranid operatives, so I try to put the actual synaptic roots in here. Okay, so you give in case you're in 3 range to another tyrannid, you get plus to move and plus to all hit rolls during melee and range. So strategic ploys are basically thematic as well. And I play with the 3-inch here as well. So if an enemy model is injured or incapacitated due to one of your operatives, each friendly model in 3-inch to that operative can immediately perform free dash or charge. So you can incapacitate an enemy, and another tyrannid guy will charge into, for free. Synaptic link is for each operative of 10 rounds or more. The power of the hive mind range is increased to 6 instead of 3. Then we have sensory assimilation, subtract 1 from any hit modes against this model and no rerolls are allowed. Elevated might, if an operative performs a charge, add 2d3 to its charge range. This operative power of hive mind ability is ranged to 9, so up to 1 operative here. And restorative impulse is a faction equipment. You can heal 2d3 rounds each time it's activated, also if it's counter-activating. So you can actually do a lot of stuff here, and this should give a little bit more immersive feel to the NPO stuff. This was basically my goal with it. You know what? I'm just gonna quickly run through all of them. For Death Guard, I made it disgustingly resilient. So when a friendly operative takes any damage, like any, roll a d6 on a 5, reduce the incoming damage by 1. Additionally, reduce any incoming damage by 1 to no minimum. Okay, so you have the 5 plus reduction, already from the game itself, and you can have a +1 reduction inbuilt. So reduce the move characteristic on any Death Guard operative by 1. So that's thematically, I think. Any friendly injured operative regains 2d3 wounds. We have Murmuration. If you target fight an enemy operative within 2 inch, you can reroll any hit roll. That's like the contagion range from 40k 9th edition I wanted to empathize. A Firefight is lethal 5 against wounded enemies while shooting or fighting. Black Swarm is basically you ignore the piercing rule. Faction equipment, Icon of Nurgle, up to 2 operatives, and you can reduce the charge range of enemies here. And Deadly Pathogen is at 1 to the hit characteristic of all weapons in this operative's profile. Thousand Suns is again then a bit more thematically towards the psychic. So all friendly operatives are psychers. All friendly operatives have a save characteristic of 3+ or 2+ if they already have 3+. For seeing is you get plus on hit characteristic. For any operative, Fate Weaver gives you rerolls. Wrath of Magnus gives reroll all hit rolls for wounded enemies. So you can combine that actually. So, but on some point you will run out of CP. I only put 2 in there. That's why I made the faction equipment cost CP actually. So in order to not being able to always do anything. That was the idea behind it. If an operative has received damage inflicted by an attack or anything else, it can immediately heal 2d3 wounds before taking any other or further damage. In this sequence, if that damage would incapacitate, this operative employs no effect. That is like healing while taking damage. So to emphasize the support of Tzeentch. Icon of Tzeentch, this operative gains 1 PL to a maximum of 4 APL and the double shoot or fight ability. And Warp Command gives the teleport ability. The first time this operative would be incapacitated, it can ignore the last damage taken and immediately to teleport to a position within 6 inch of its previous position. Any remaining success of enemy shooting, fighting, or own successes are discarded. The operative remains with only 1 APL for the rest of the turning point. I think that's pretty thematic for the Thousand Suns. Sorry. The Emperor's Children are all about perfection and Slanesh, so all operatives gain a 5-up Feel No Pain. So for classic 40k Feel No Pain, not like reduced damage for 1, it's like complete Feel No Pain. For any damage value taken, roll a d6. On a 5+, you ignore that damage. So for example, if an operative takes 5 damage from a weapon, you roll 5d6. And 2 of those are 5+, so you ignore 2 of the 5 damage you would have taken. So and you only take 3 eventually. Improves the move characteristic by 1. Phoenix Guard reroll any of your defense dice, any ones of your defense dice, or any 1 to hit if it's a melee combat. all-out attack gives you a fight first, so you always strike first in melee combat. We have a firefight ploy with noise weapons. If you target or fight a wounded enemy operative, you get the rending weapon rule. Overwatch is if a friendly operative is being charged, it can immediately shoot at the enemy operative performing the charge move. Icon of Slanesh gives you even more movement, 2d3 to its charge, and you gain the shock rule, so while you strike you can block. And Creations of Bile, you give rending and brutal, and for range you get piercing 1 or improved to piercing 2. That's why I said only put 1 equipment. They tend to be really hard. World Eater is all about Angron and blood. So we have blood for the Blood God as faction rule. Like melee weapons have a hit characteristic of 2 and the lethal 5 and shock rules. World Eaters can add an additional 3 movement to their charge action. World Eaters must pay 2 AP to shoot, or pay 1 AP but only hit on 5. So that's to emphasize that melee is a lot more competitive than shooting. Butcher Nails, you can reroll any ones to hit if it's melee combat. Skulls for the Skull Throne, when a friendly operative is incapacitated, it can use one of its unresolved success or critical success to strike. Favor of Corn and Angron's Wrath as firefight ploys gives a bit more damage and critical damage. Or if you don't incapacitate an enemy while fighting first, you can immediately perform a free fight action against that operative. Icon of Corn always strikes first. If it fights against an operative with a similar rule, Corn wins and this operative fight first. So that's about it. Skull Chain is enemy operatives within control range of this operative cannot fall back. Up to 2 operatives. Chaos Space Marines, I try to put in all the legions and fluff in there is. Chaos Undivided gives reroll 1 dice of each to hit or defense sequence for free, so you can always have 1 free reroll. Alpha and Omega, obviously the Alpha Legion gives a lot options in the strategic phase, like immediately perform a free shoot or fight action. Always bound to 1 operative. 1 operative can immediately perform a free reposition, charge, dash or fall back action. And maximal 3 inch. 1 operative can immediately perform a free mission action or heal 2d3 wounds. Abaddon's First Company gives a bit more Black Legion stuff to it. When a friendly operative finishes a charge move, deal 2 damage to each enemy operative within control range of that operative. That kind of emphasizes the hard-hitting Black Legion. Iron Within, obviously Iron Warriors, gives 1 to all damage characteristics for more damage output. The Night Lords emphasized with Terror and Midnight Clad. When a friendly operative is selected as a target, this operative counts as obscured against shooting attacks from further than 2 inch, and enemy operatives must subtract 1 from all hit rolls and cannot retain critical successes, which are no 6s while fighting against this operative. Book of Lorga for the world bearers halves each damage received for the faith they have in the gods. Small Eye of Terror is a faction equipment which gives you 2 damage if they finish a charge and or if they initiate an attack and melee fight while within this cooperative's control range. So if you charge, you get 2 damage, and then if you attack, you get 2 damage again, and if you attack again, you get 2 damage again. Then I have the Chaos Demons. I put all of them in here, so all Khorne, Demon Slanesh, and Tzeentch get different benefits based on their gods, as you know it, +1 to hit and attacks for melee. For Khorne, move and strike first for Slanesh. Tzeentch get hit and for all range weapons. All +1 to hit and all attacks. So more attacks and more and better hitting. Or Nurgle, -1 to move and +1 to any save characteristic. So you can actually combine your demon portfolio on the table as NPOs and make them actually playable fluffy, lore accurate. Beings from the warp, up to 3 operatives can immediately enter the warp and re-enter the kill zone within their territory, anywhere more than 6 inch from an enemy operative. So yeah, they can just disappear and appear. With Terror, each enemy operative within 3 immediately takes 1 damage or 2 damage if its wounds characteristic is 12 or more. We have the Firefight ploy, Torment, and Fate is Written. When a friendly operative injures or incapacitates an enemy operative, that enemy operative and each other enemy operative take 2 damage. For each damage point dealt to this ploy, that friendly operative heals a wound. So if you deal 6 damage, you heal 6. Fate is Written is 3 to move. And you can change that order at the end of your activation. Icon of the Warp gives 1 additional APA, APL, and shoot and fight twice, or Unreal Weapons give 2 to the weapon attacks and damage of this model. Perfectly fine with Korn and Zinj to have a really unreal output, I thought. Again, you have to see if it's not getting too hard, or you really have to playtest this. That's what I didn't. So I just figured out that NPO plays is a good way for beginners to get into it. And if you want to play a thematic campaign, you can also include NPO games. And this is a way to make them more accurate and have more fun and make it a lot more challenging. Genestealer killed 99% human, 1% tyrannid. Of course, the faction rule is called ambush. After enemy deployment, you can completely redeploy your army. 1/3 of your operatives can start the game in ambush and be deployed in turning point 2, only 2. Fully within your territory, further away than 6 from any enemy. And when an operative is deployed from ambush, they are -1 to hit for enemy operatives in that turn. Killed ambush is all ranged weapons have saturate and seek light. As strategic ploy or siege drilled, all melee weapons have lethal 5 and shock. That gives a lot of output. I have firefight ploys with a sneaky. You can free dash after killing someone, even if you charged. We have an assassination edict. When a friendly operative is selected to activate, add 1 to any hit rolls. And normal successes can become crits to this. So if you roll a 5 and need a 6, you generate a crit basically. Faction equipment. Coordinate the trap. When an enemy operative finishes a move, reposition dash within 8 inch. An operative can immediately perform a free shoot action targeting that enemy operative. So the order on that point doesn't matter. And we have Deadly Snare as other faction equipment. If this operative is a target of a charge, roll a d6 on a 2 to 4. Enemy operative suffers 2d3 mortal wounds. On a 5+, it suffers 3d3 mortal wounds. So up to 2 operatives, as you can see. We have this Battle Sisters here, Acts of Faith. I implemented the Miracle Dice mechanic for those. So if you haven't played 40k, in each turning point, roll a d6 for each friendly operative in the kill zone. For each injured and incapacitated enemy, roll another d6. Put the results aside, you can use up to 2 Miracle Dice to switch any result rolled in any sequence, such as shooting, fighting, retailing, saving, so defense. So in case you roll for 5 models, so you roll 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or whatever, you roll 5 6s, you can, while you're shooting, you can change one of your results with the Miracle Dice result, if that makes sense. Blood of Martyrs, reroll any rolled 1 during defense sequence, and all your melee weapons gain the shock weapon rule. That is for more input. And the Chaplet of Sacrifice gives you, for each wounded or injured friendly operative, you can reroll one of your Miracle Dice, because on the Miracle Dice you want high rolls, right, to replace your bad rolls during the game. So that you pay 1 CP in order to get possibly better Miracle Dice results. Firefight ploy Divine Intervention. When the friendly operative is incapacitated, discard 2 Miracle Dice and it remains alive with as much wounds as the Miracle Dice combined result. So if you have 2 6s, for example, you can spend those 2 Miracle Dice when a friendly operative is incapacitated, so killed, and put it back to game where it stands with 12 wounds. Or if you have a 4 and a 5, it's 9 wounds. So I think that makes sense. We have Mantle of Ophelia. If a friendly operative is attacked, reduce any incoming damage by 1. Sanity example is this operative is incapacitated, gain 3 and roll 3 Miracle Dice. Obviously, if you gain 1, you roll them. I just wrote it out. And because once you lose operatives, you get less Miracle Dice. That's why I put this faction equipment. And you have the Sanctified Immolation. This operative adds 2 to all damage characteristic of its weapon. So a lot for input, a lot for output, and the Miracle Dice usually tend to serve for higher output. The Tau Empire felt always pretty weak for now for the kill team, so I decided to give them a lot of thematic stuff. Ranged weapons improved their to hit characteristic by 1 to a maximum of 2+. Monka and Kaoyun strategic ploys cannot be active at the same time. So strategic ploy Monka is turning point 1 and 2. You have friendly operatives, range weapons gain silent weapon rule, but only hits on 4 at best. Turning point 3 and 4, friendly ranged weapons gain the relentless weapon rule, so you can reroll everything in turning point 3 and 4. Stay in cover and shoot in turning point 1 and 2. I think that's kind of cool, Killteam is you have any critical success while shooting, you can retain a fail as a normal success, and if the target was the closest valid target, the ranged weapons gain the devastating 3-weapon rule in addition to that. So that's all over the game, and you can only put 1 strategic ploys. I think 2 would be too extreme, that's why I put the limit on it. We have firefight ploys, wall of mirror for the ghost, one friendly operative target of an attack, and enemy operatives cannot retain any critical successes, they become normal successes. So not obscured, but it also works in melee. Firefight ploy drone controller, if a friendly operative is attacked, reduce any incoming damage by 1. Exemplar of Monka is 2 operatives. If an enemy operative is incapacitated by this operative, each operative into that operative suffers 2 wounds. Only works while Monka strategic ploy is active. So if you actually incapacitate an enemy, anyone around him takes 2 wounds, like mortal wounds, without being able to do anything on that. Especially turning point 3 and 4, it can escalate because your output might be a lot higher due to Relentless. And yeah, then I have Exemplar of Killteam. This operative can change its order for 1 AP after or while shooting, charging, fighting, retailing, counteracting. So you can shoot and then go back to if you have your position, you can actually shoot and then go into defense again. Makes sense for snipers and such. Eldari Webway Artisans is, I tried to implement Stance of Fate a bit, was not really sure, so I tried to play a lot with the datasheets to change the movement of all Eldari to 7 and the saves to 4. And Eldari operators can reroll 1 failed defense dice per sequence or 1 failed dice per melee sequence while retailing or fighting. I didn't put shooting in there, just it was more like for their lightning fast style to make them harder to kill. That's what I wanted to achieve here. And I have strategic ploy Bladestorm, which gives you devastating on melee weapons. I haven't seen that actually, so I tried it would be fun. Fire and Fade is you can shoot during your action, like you move and during movement you shoot and then you go away. Lightning fast reactions is more like it counts as obscured and ignore the piercing rule, and the attack has a -1 to hit penalty, and there's no such thing as a range to it here, so they're really hard to kill. I thought that would be good. And matchless agility is at 2 through movement, so you have potentially 12-inch charge, which is crazy good. And the Phoenix Gem is the first time this operative is incapacitated, roll a d6. Sorry about that. And on a 2+ it remains with half its wounds remaining. You know that from 40k, maybe 9th edition. And Fate Smash, it's only the first time ever, not first time in each turning point, it's first time once per game. Fate Messengers Up is you can change 1 of its dice rolls to 6 once per turning point. That gives a little bit more output, I think. Drukari on the other side are pretty similar actually, but not. So I played around with that as well. I put Power from Pain, so all operatives change its melee weapon characteristic to 3+ to hit. If a friendly operative is wounded, change it to 2 hit and add 1 to its damage characteristic. If a friendly operative is injured, melee weapons also gain devastating 2 in addition. So the more damage they take, the harder they hit. Prior on the weak reroll or hit ones of 1 for range and melee. Insensible to Pain is a friendly operative is attacked, reduce any income to damage by 1. So this is a try-off indicator that they have a higher chance of surviving and then benefiting from their faction war. That was my idea. Quicksilver reactions is count as obscured, same like Eldari. Other name, acrobatic display, again same like Eldari, another name. Faction equipment, Blood Dancer. Enemy operators within 1 inch have a -1 to their melee weapons attack characteristic, so they get 1 attack less. And Crucible Malediction of 2 operatives, max again. Once per turning point, this operative range weapons gain the piercing 1 weapon rule. If it already has that rule, it increases to piercing 2. Darklands. And then I have the Adeptus Mechanicus. Home is where the Mars is. Machine Enhance is basically try to emphasize that they are tougher and regenerative. So they go up to by 1 for each save characteristic to a max of 2. In each strategic phase, every injured operative heals D3 wounds, so they repair basically before anything else happens. Only one of strategic ploy can be active, Protector or Conqueror. You have seen that in the Tau already. So the Protector imperative reduce any incoming damage by 2. They are immune to piercing, and they count as obscured as long as any visible enemy operative is further away than 6. The Conqueror gives Relentless for ranged, Rending for melee, and 1 to movement. Red Bombardment is when you die, you choose enemy operatives and deal damage in 3 inch, 2d3. Radial Weaponry gives you Explosive 2 weapon rule as a firefight ploy for each weapon you want to. Faction Equipment is the Tech Priest upgrade, so you get the medic rule. So if an operative in 3 inch is basically incapacitated, it stays alive with 1 HP, with 1 wound, and you can heal 2d3 wounds to an operative in control range. Together with a machine enhancement faction rule, it might be hard to kill. Well, they are machines, so I thought that would be legit. And Eradicator is basically ranged weapon, gain devastating 3 weapon rule. Together with all the other stuff might be hard. And last but not least, I think it's last, we have the Leagues of Wotan, and it's Eye of Ancestors. All friendly operatives add 1 to the hit rolls. Critical successes can be generated, so if you roll a 5, it would be a crit. While shooting at the closest valid target, ranged weapon gain devastating 2, reduce the movement speed to 5. Warrior Pride as a strategic ploy gives you if an enemy operative fights against you or retails, basically both, you discard 1 of the successes of the attacker, or critical successes if he has no normal successes. All at retreat, all friendly operative can immediately perform a free fallback, even if rules prevent them from doing so. Firefight ploy gives Ancestral Sentence. I thought when a friendly operative is activated and within control range of an enemy operative, it can perform a shooting action against that enemy model, and its range weapons gain the Piercing 1 weapon rule, or Piercing 1 becomes Piercing 2. So they can shoot into melee, so in case you tend to charge their gunner, they can use Mighty Charge, they meaning the NPOs, to actually punish that. Faction Equipment is Void Armor, save characteristic of 2. Melee damage is always reduced to the normal damage characteristic of a weapon, even though the strike was done with a critical success. And then we have Ancestral Weaponry, where melee weapons gain Shock and Brutal, and ranged weapon of this operative has a Saturate weapon rule. Yeah, that's basically it. I went through all of it. I hope you get an idea of what this is about, actually. And the idea here is, as I said, to give an expansion to the joint operation and NPO format, because I thought it feels like the initiation of it feels really good, but once you play it, you find out it suggests you to put 90 wounds of NPOs on the table, and even if you play against 120 wounds, it might be too easy sometimes, because they always act from their behaviors, right? So they don't get any CPs, they don't get any strats, they don't get any ploys, and I try to emphasize it here to be able to, because right now it didn't even matter if you put tyranids there or necrons, all felt the same due to having no specific routes for them, and that's why I used my train ride to actually write this down. I had no internet on the train, thanks to German train. And yeah, I used my time in this way. So anyway, I hope you liked it. As I can say, I suggest you to play it with the rule set I put in here. To NPO generate same CP as players. Strategic and firefight gambits for 1 CP. And so the ploys, right? And only choose 1 of the faction equipment. If you want to, choose 2. And I can highly recommend to pay 1 CP for it, because you don't want to make... Like, it's stupid to, if they can use all their ploys in every round. So to avoid that, I made the equipment a bit more expensive then. Yeah, it's not for free. Yeah, I hope you liked it. If you want to say thanks, use Ko-fi. If you have any suggestions, put them down in the video here. Try it out. Let me know what works. Let me know what's maybe over the top. I will update this file. I won't make a new video once I update it here. So this is just for you to have a more immersive play while playing NPO or Joint Operations on Killteam 2024. I hope you liked it. Leave a like, subscribe if you like. This is usually a German channel, so forgive me if I pronounce some things wrong here or put some typos in there. Trying to be better. I have an English playlist as well, so if I do tutorials from time to time, I put English videos up, so make sure to not miss them. Anyway, let me know what you think, and see you next time. Sincerely yours. Hope you have fun with this. Bye bye.